Do you know your Ikigai? Your reason for living, your reason for getting up in the morning, your reason for being, your why, your purpose, your meaning. This was a really powerful question that came out of this book here, The Happiness Equation. Highly recommend it. And I am Joe Simonds. If you haven't been following me, this is the Joe Simonds Like Diamonds show. And we go over in 7 minutes or less, so let me start the clock. A big idea from usually some book or something that I have read that is out there, and I'm just trying to condense big ideas out of books like these and like these, all for you in 7 minutes or less. So let's talk about this Ikigai. And if you're not familiar with the term, I wasn't either until I read this book, and I have an entire chapter about your Ikigai and how to develop and define your reason, your purpose, your why in life here in Fishing for Happiness. So please go pick up a copy on Amazon. But for now, let's talk about The Happiness Equation by my friend Neil Pasricha. Awesome book here. And on page 101, he's got a chapter here, What Can the Healthiest 100-Year-Olds in the World Teach Us? Now, there's men and women in Okinawa, in this area in Japan, that live an average of 7 years longer than Americans, and they have the longest disability-free life expectancy on Earth. And what was interesting, they found out after they looked at this group of people and studied this group of people and said, what is so different about them? Can you guess what it was? They actually didn't have the word retirement in their vocabulary. Yes, that's true. They actually had their own little language, and they had no word. They could not define the word retirement. It didn't mean anything to them. Instead, they had a word called Ikigai, which means your reason for getting up, your reason for living, your reason for being, for your why. And this was so powerful that I made it a big focus on my book. So thank you, Neil, and definitely once again, go pick up a copy of this book. Great book. So this is just one short chapter in Neil's book, but man, it really packs a punch. So the Ikigai, as I explained, is just, it's your reason for being, your reason for getting up in the morning. And there's an interesting study by Toshimasa Son and his colleagues at a certain university there and a graduate school of medicine. They wanted to put this whole concept of Ikigai to the test. So they spent 7 years in Japan studying the longevity of more than 43,000 Japanese adults. Really, I mean, this is a big study. This is not like just interviewing 200 people. I mean, we're talking 7 years and 43,000 people. And what they did is they looked at age, gender, education, body mass, cigarette use, alcohol consumption, all these different things, kind of putting one kind of score on how healthy they were. And then they asked every single one of these 43,000 people this one question. Do you have an Ikigai in your life? Do you have a reason for living, for getting up in the morning? Can you guess what they found? Well, they found that participants reporting an Ikigai at the beginning of the study, they were more likely to be married, educated, and employed. So this is the beginning of the study. The people that said yes were more likely, much more likely, to be married, educated, and employed. They had higher levels of self-rated health and lower levels of stress. But here's where it gets really interesting. At the end of this 7-year study, 95% of the folks with an Ikigai were alive. And only 83% of those folks without an Ikigai made it that long. And this is only 7 years. We're not talking about like 70 years. So at the end of 7 years, 95% of the folks that had an Ikigai were still alive, and 83% of those that said did not have one, did not have a reason for getting up that they could define, were alive. That's a pretty big difference. So what he did with his wife is he gave his wife and himself for Christmas an Ikigai card. And this is my big action item for today, is to come up with your Ikigai. And if you need help, buy my book. I mean, the big chunk of this book is defining your Ikigai, your why, your reason for being, your meaning, your purpose. And once you have that, write it down and look at it every morning. So what Neil and his wife did is they started looking at theirs every single morning. It was by their bedside, literally, where they would look at it as soon as they got up to remind themselves, why they were getting out of bed in the morning, why they were so excited. And that is it. It's like, man, why are we getting up? And if your answer is just to make money or to go to do a job and to be in this vicious cycle of doing the same thing over and over again, then you probably need to take a step back and look at this and really define your meaning, your purpose, your why in life. It's not just to make money. And that goes for businesses as well. And my brother and I learned this the hard way with Salt Strong. You know, for a while there, we were just focused on paying our bills and making money. I mean, the same thing that so many of us do in our real lives. We get in this rut of just, oh yeah, I got to pay my bills and work hard and save this much money. But if you can't take a step back and think about your why, like, why are we doing this? If it's just to pay our bills, then let's just get rid of our bills and go live off the land. But that's not what we want. You know, we usually have some why. There's usually some reason that we're pushing to do it. It could be your kids. It could be something much, much bigger than that. Let me read you what Neil and his wife wrote down. So Neil's wife wrote down her Ikigai was to turn young minds into future leaders. I'm guessing she is a teacher of some sort. And then he wrote down to remind myself and others how lucky we are to be alive. That's his reason for being, his purpose. And my personally, if you read in this book, is just to spread happiness, to bring out the best in people, to make people smile. It's something that I look back on my life and I enjoy doing that more than anything else. I mean, you can say I light up even talking about it. I mean, just making people laugh as a kid, from being in class to being out in the playground. I mean, that was something I just got a high off. And money didn't matter when I was making people laugh and making people smile. And so that was mine. And it took a while for me to realize that. For a while, I was driven more by money, as you'll read about in Fishing for Happiness. And because of it, I was pretty miserable. So I encourage you to do just what Neil did, is get an Ikigai card, right? Write it down. It could be an index card. It doesn't have to be something official, but have something that you can look at every morning to remind yourself why you get up in the morning. So I'm leaving it there. I know we're getting low on time. Go pick yourself up this book and this book on Amazon now.